Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to get set up with a new project using the MERN technology stack. So first of all, what is the MERN technology stack? Well, it's a technology stack including MongoDB, Express, React.js and Node.js. And it's a really nice technology stack, really nice to work with and easy to get started, especially when you have nice boilerplates like this. So there's loads of boilerplates available to get started, but I like this one in particular just because it's quite bare bones and just has minimum required and not too much overhead. So what I did was I forked this repo and I made a few small changes myself just based on my preference. For example, this uses Sass for styling, whereas I'd rather just use traditional CSS and stuff like this. So you can either clone mine or his, doesn't matter, whatever you want, or you could download the zip. So we're going to go ahead and clone this. First of all, there's a few prerequisites. So you need to have Node.js installed, at least version 6, and also MongoDB. I've linked some steps here to install MongoDB, and I'd recommend using Homebrew. It's really quick and easy to get set up. So once you've followed those steps, you can go ahead and clone this repo. So I'm just going to clone it to my desktop, and once that's cloned, we're going to cd into it, and we have some dependencies to install, as this is a Node project. So we're going to say npm install, and this is going to install all of our dependencies. So that's going to take a minute. While that's installing, we're just going to open up the project in Visual Studio Code, and we can walk through some of the directories. Cool. So here we have a folder called client, and this is where all of our client facing code is going to go, and this is where React, CSS, all of that good stuff is. And as you can see, this boilerplate has some nice simple example setup, which is really nice. And in public then you just have your assets and your HTML file. So all of the stuff inside this client folder is going to get built using Webpack, and we're going to see that in a minute. So the next directory is config, and here we have just some configurations such as where our MongoDB is located and some configurations for Webpack, just some settings that define what way we're going to build this project. So moving down then we have our server file, and this is where all of our backend code is. So we've defined our models here that we're using for MongoDB and our API routes. And as I said, this boilerplate is really nice because it has an example of everything here. So now that we've walked through those directories, our modules have installed. So now we're going to go back here into our config, and we're going to go into this config.example file. And here, as you can see, there's an instruction at the top. Copy this file as config.js in the same folder, and then we're going to give it a proper DB URI. So if I copy this or make a new file and just call it config.js and paste this in, so we can see we have a DB and a DB dev here. Because we're working locally, we're going to use this DB dev. And what do we need to put here? So we need to put the URI of our MongoDB. So to do that, once you have Mongo installed, back to the terminal, you're going to run MongoD, and this is going to start MongoDB. So we can see here, if we look, that we can see that it is running on port 27017, and I think this is the default for MongoDB instances, so this might be the same for you, or it may not. So just check that. And once you've checked that, you can go back here, and this URI, we're going to put localhost here, and then the port, and then this is your database name. So we're just going to call this test.db. If we save that, then this should all be okay. If we go back to the terminal, and here, back to our project, we're going to check what is the command we need to run to start this. In the README, we can see running locally we can, in development mode, we can just say npm run start dev. So we're going to do that. npm run start dev. Hit enter, and this should all start. So we can see everything's being built. Nice, compiled successfully. So we've no errors. The only change we needed to make was that MongoDB URI. So once you have Mongo running correctly, this is going to be really nice and easy. So as you can see, it's running on localhost port 8080. So if we go back to our browser and open up localhost port 8080, we can see that here is our project. Nice. And if we go back here, I use MongoDB Compass, which is just kind of like a UI interface for viewing your Mongo documents. If we open this up and connect here, just leave all these as the defaults. We have no authentication locally. We just hit connect. We can see that these are our documents. And at the minute, there's been no document created for this yet called testdb. This is because we haven't actually made any API requests to do this yet. But in the browser, if we go back and hit this new counter button, that's after making a request. So if we go back here to Mongo Compass and refresh, then we can see we have our testdb document. And inside here, we have an object. So this is all set up, working locally. And if we go back to the browser and increment this counter, you can see every time we're hitting this button, it's making an API request from the UI to the API, and then the database is updating. If we refresh this by hitting Control R, you can see that the count has changed to 10. So this is how to set up a project using the MERN stack. If you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like to see, don't be afraid to ask in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.